My friends, guys, it's been a little while since we've had this type of a conversation. There was something that was so impactful, so jarring to my internal system that I had a little meltdown. This conversation that we're going to have right now, if you don't want to hear a little bit of a rant, if you don't want to hear about some mistruths, whether we're talking about what we're going on right now, or whether we're talking about biblical times, and about how all of this information is designed to keep you trapped without being able to move forward and find out solutions that we currently desperately need from you, I would tell you to pass. Swipe right. Maybe that's swipe left. I don't know. I haven't spent enough time on a dating site. Maybe one of you guys can tell me, is it right or left if you don't want to be a part of it? Anyway, so I've been watching these memes pop up, and every time it's like a dagger stuck in my throat. Every time I see somebody post this, it's like knives that are going in. And I watched another one today. And it opened this conversation for the amount of unwillingness to find a truth, the amount of perpetrating or perpetrating lies that we're willing to go through. Because we're unwilling to find the truth. We're willing to hear what somebody else had to say, and that becomes our truth. And it's so much in our identity, it has to be in our identity. So I'm watching this meme, and it pulls up, and it has a picture of the original, or what you would consider to be a picture of Jesus Christ. Now, keeping in mind, it was illegal for you to have pictures of Jesus Christ. You were put to death from when Christianity was created, from 384 to around 800. So we don't actually really know. But, that's just beside the point. It has this picture of him and a picture of something else going on. And it's labeling out all these things that he was or wasn't, right? And we're talking about one of the most iconic beings that we've had access to. We're still talking about him. We still have 1 billion people, maybe 2, maybe 3 at this point. I don't really know how many people are Christian anymore. Keeping in mind that a lot of other faiths see him as a great prophet. So a lot of people, right? And we have these things that are listed down. And I like to list some of these untruths. Number one, the one that I beg you to all stop right now, he hung out with whores. Now, does that mean hanging out with a prostitute isn't awesome? No, it's not. But the way that it's said is talking about one being in particular. And what happened is around 750 AD after death, the Pope gets really pissed off. He's tired of hearing about this woman, Mary Magdalene. He's tired of hearing about how powerful she was. And did she have the priesthood? Did she not have the priesthood? Was she poor? Was she rich? By the way, this was a boss babe. Like, boss babe, hashtag boss babe. Mary Magdalene was not poor. She was very well off. She was very well spoken. She was one of the apostles. She has her own book, like the rest of the apostles, the book of Mary Magdalene. All these amazing things. Well, this prophet, or God, I just lost my train of thought. The Pope, he is really pissed. He's like, she's done. She was just a whore. You're talking about a guy in the 700s, whatever. And she gets branded this. 350 years later, another Pope comes out and he's like, that guy, we don't know where he got his information. We think he was really pissed off. And the church issued a public apology to Mary Magdalene. Said, hey, we're sorry. We don't really have that information. And none of that, what we said, was actually validated or true. Except now, in 2020, we still believe it. We're perpetrating a lie for I can't say over 2,000 years, but close to 2,000 years. We're perpetrating a lie because we believed what somebody else told us about somebody else. Can we cut the cattiness? We don't need to be catty about a person like this. I mean, the feminine rising thing is rising. It's been going this way for a long time. And yet we still pick on some of the most iconic beings and tell them that there's something that they're not. Let's cut that. Number 2, his name was Jesus Christ. His first name was Yeshua. Whenever you say Jesus, I want you to consider this. His name was Jesus because he studied with the Jesuits. That was part of his ministry. There was a group of people that lived in a city. All of these, rabbis were called Jesuites. And so every time you say the word Jesus, consider that what you're saying is, hey, that Catholic or that Jewish guy or that Muslim guy, is this what you're doing? I understand that this is like part of our history and part of our culture, but it's still not true. You're classifying him by a field of study that isn't Christianity. Wild. That's not about anything bad about Christianity. It's just the truth, right? Christ is a office. Christ is somebody who rises to a level so high in their enlightenment and their divine connection. In the Old Testament, they talked about the dove coming down, right? This was him receiving his Christhood. Now, there's been many Christs on this planet. There's been many that have had that office. Maybe not from his lineage, and I'm happy to have this conversation with anybody that we want to talk about it, because him being the son of whomever isn't what made him a Christ. He did. He did the work. He pushed forward in a time speaking words into groups of people that wasn't popular. 2, or I guess we're to 3. He was against government. Yeshua wasn't against anything. Mother Teresa put this best when she said, I will never go to an anti-war rally, but I will go to every peace rally I can. So to say that he was standing out against a government isn't true. What he was saying wasn't necessarily popular with the government and the way that the government was running things, but he wasn't the guy that was like, hey, tear something down. He was talking about a higher level of love, a higher level of peace, in a time where paganism was kind of falling apart. The reason why Christianity became Christianity is because a pagan Caesar, Constantine, said, my government's falling apart. My people are falling apart. I've heard about this Yeshua guy. I'm going to pull all the cardinals, all the people that teach Christianity, because there was 1,000 different sects at that time, and I'm going to put them all in a room, and we're going to come out with one religion. It was 340 years after Yeshua had died. That's how Christianity was born. But the spirit of Christianity was born through Yeshua. This was this, hey, let's be smarter, right? Let's maybe not do some of those things over there, and let's promote this inner well-being. And let's become powerful ourselves instead of allowing a large government to hold power over us. Now you can see why this is getting like so juiced and so important in our time. He was talking about the power of the individual and how you too could have a divine connection. That's pretty rad. Considering that, after Christianity was born, 384 years after, and they took all the other apostles out of the books, and that only gave 4. A version. I always wonder this. If I'm watching a movie, and it's a really beautiful movie, it's like 3 hours long. Let's say it's like something really cool, like a Star Wars, and I actually only get to see 10 minutes of 1 hour. Would I get a whole picture of what's going on in Star Wars? I might get some. I might have an all right idea. This is what happens when you don't study the other apostles as well. There's only a fraction of the actual storyline. So it kind of gets to be important. Like that was his mission, right? Bring peace and harmony. And, the Mary Magdalene thing. I'm sure she was just stunningly gorgeous. And the boss. And there were a couple people that were listed in the New Testament, the Old Testament, the New Testament. Geez, get my testaments right. Who didn't like hearing about it? They were a little chauvinistic. They're like, get that Mary out of here. Hey, it happened. Number 4, 5 maybe. He was a child refugee. Now, perhaps the people back then didn't understand who he was. Perhaps they did, perhaps they didn't, doesn't matter. But these 3 really bomb, magi kings, not the paupers, the kings, showed up with all their wealth, all their power, all their knowledge. They traveled them all over the world. They studied with the best gurus, the best schools. This is like sending somebody to the best prep school. Like nobody else got the education that he got because of who he was. And he got to go do that. Another one, he was poor. He shunned money. Absolutely not true. There's a difference between being nomadic and being poor. There's a difference between being in lack and not needing something. All of his studies, all the information that you can find about him never once was about being poor or shunning anything. Imagine seeing that Yeshua guy who only really had a ministry for a couple of years, walking around with 27 camels full of gold, which he probably had access to because of the Magi kings. But he didn't carry it. He didn't need it. He had food when he needed to eat. People put him up in homes when they had places, or when he needed a place to stay. They washed his feet. They fed him. He did everything that he could for other people. And I'm going to say everything that he could for himself as well. Best educations, all these things. You imagine that, let's say the whole storyline is word for word true. And the Father, which is interesting, the way that the Trinity is written out. But let's say that's all factual. And the Father said, hey, if you go through this, you're going to receive all that I have. And we're talking about many worlds and kingdoms. And I love the guy. I celebrate his life. But I also celebrate the truths about him. And why is that important now? So we have billions of people that follow this guy, Yeshua, who don't even know his real name. They believe that this woman, who is either his most favorite woman on the planet, or possibly his lover, or possibly his wife, right? When you talk about the different books saying he kissed her on the mouth, that means something different. These are possibilities. We talk about billions of people following and not sure what that is. Billions of people that say he was this when he wasn't. He felt this way when he didn't. And the way that you can find out whether he did or didn't, number one, is ask him. And number two is you actually do the research. You don't listen to what somebody else is saying because they're speaking through their lens. And a lot of times, not all the times, this isn't a pick on the Catholic Church. This is a visual representation of what's unfolding in front of you right now. If you're willing to listen to what you might have heard, and you're going to spew that back out, what else are you spewing that's not true? If you're willing to stand and want to fight somebody over a perceived untruth or a perceived right without actually knowing what the rights are, if you're willing to listen to a news media and you hear something on any of the news channels, and that becomes your truth without verifying it yourself, are you perpetrating a lie? If you don't know it's true for yourself, are you perpetrating a lie? We're living in a world in this moment in time where we cannot afford to have anyone perpetrate lies. Bring something forward which is untrue. Use their personal fire in them to perpetrate something that's not true. So when you're looking at who to vote for, when you're looking at a politician, a government system, and if you're only willing to listen to what a news media said without actually going through and looking at histories, like factual histories, not fact checkers from what somebody else did, if you're unwilling to do that, do you feel that you're willing, or do you feel that your vote should count? If you're going to go to the ballot and just check it because of blue or red, should you be counted? Country says yes, but I'm asking you, should you? And we have a whole storm of things that are coming, a whole storm. If you only followed the monetary system and you would watch how many people are out of unemployment or how many people are in employment, how many people haven't made mortgage payments, you're going to see that next year, 2021, we're going to hit another 35% default rates in mortgages, commercial and residential. That's how many people can't pay their mortgage payments. There's not a possibility of a government bailout of everything. We would have bailed out every individual, not the banks, but the individuals in 2008. This is happening again. We're going to have, or we already have, this huge spike of people that are committing suicide because they don't know what to do. We're watching all of this unfold, and it's going to get worse because of what's already happened. There's not a possibility that they're not going to have default rates. All of the banks already are saying all of their losses and preparing for this. So it's not getting better unless, well, first, it's not getting better. It's going to be rough. No joke, it's going to be rough. Secondly, if we want to prepare for ourselves and find out the actual truths of things, how will we be able to manage? What is the best government system? What is the best, politician that we should vote for today, from ground, from our cities to our top of our president? And is this the right country? Excuse me, not country, but is this the right political system for us in this day? You might see that it's falling apart at the seams and something else might be birthed. But how? It can only be birthed if you're educated. If you've stopped and you've looked at the different government systems from different places around the world, and you're willing to step up and say, hey, you know what? If things go really south, I'll be that person. I'll step up and do this here because I'm going to be educated about it now, and not educated from what somebody else said. Educated for yourself. What is the truth that you know? Forget about what they told you when you were 6. Forget about what you regurgitated from something that you heard at 9. This is where most of our subconscious belief systems stopped growing, was when you were 9 years old. That's when the subconscious mind says, I think we understand it all. And you spend the rest of your life trying to unwind all of those untruths which are causing you problems right now. But when you do it, you quite possibly could be the next leader that we will need, not that we might need, that we will need, whether that's for your family, whether that's your community, your local state, your tribe, or even your nation, or even this world. My personal belief system is that we're never going to get out of this unless we all decide that we're only one human race. When you look at the DNA structures, the difference between, say, me and an African American, and realize it's 0.001 difference in our human DNA, or our human genome, we have more alike, over 99%, than we have differences. And when every country drops the border, when every country says we're sharing in these pieces, and when every person that can work gets to work, like physically, when every person that can does, then that's when this world will take that next step. And you just might be that next person to help us do this. And we start right now by just stop perpetrating things that are untruth. Stop sharing stuff on social media that you don't know if it's true or not, because maybe you heard it one time, or maybe even you thought it was funny, because it's not funny anymore. We get to be a higher level of socially aware, a higher level of emotional understanding or emotional IQ. If you've listened to this whole rant, I believe you are somebody that will be who we need. You might be prepared right now, and everything that I've just said is on point with you. And you may have a few things that you're going to look at. But this is what we need. No cattiness. Stop sharing untruths. Find out the base truth of anything that we're going to talk about. Go into our governments. Learn how they're actually running. Learn what's happening with the dollars. And don't just assume that somebody else will do it for us, because they won't. Just watch what's been happening over the last couple decades. Friends, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for listening to all of this. It felt so good to be able to speak because my mind was going to explode if I saw one more thing about Mary Magdalene. I just wanted to just punch somebody in the face. I appreciate you. Let's talk soon.